Welcome, 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 welcome to the Trailer Park Show. My name is Marilyn Jackson, and I'm so excited to be here tonight in the midst of nothing but a bunch of change agents, and I'm so excited about it. I'm going to yield the floor to Mike Lee, and he's going to do all the introductory and everything else. Take it, Mike.
Yeah, this is Mike Lee coming from the Trailer Park Show. Our guests this evening are Robert Muhammad, who's the tell what you are, Robert.
Student Minister Muhammad Miles, number 64, under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan here in the city of Austin.
Thank you. And Richard Franklin, who's a candidate for County Commissioner of Precinct 1.
Yeah.
Myself, I don't know who or what I am. And Cliff Stiles, who works with me on the Travis County Republican Outreach Committee. We want to talk this evening about race and crime.
Wow.
Now, there were some other people that we hadn't invited who unfortunately were unable to appear. And I'm not going to say anything about them right now. I'm going to let Robert probably knows more about race and crime in Austin than I'll ever know. So I'd like to get his comments and perspectives first.
Well, comments about race and crime. So I'm guessing maybe we want to talk about David Joseph.
Among other things, yes.
Among other things.
Yeah.
Austin has been lauded as one of the best places to retire. It's been lauded as one of the best places to invest in entrepreneurship. It's been lauded as one of the it actually Forbes magazine just recently came out with a report saying this is the next boom town. But I also read a report that said that it among the fastest growing cities and financially and demographically, but the population that is also one of the most economically segregated cities in the country. And among the fastest growing cities in the country, it is the one that is among the fastest growing that it has a dwindling African American or black population. And so while it is a good place, as far as crime is concerned, we say to raise children, to retire, we have to look deeply into the fabric of this city, and we have to be honest about some things that are going on here. We got South by Southwest coming next month. Millions of dollars will be poured into the coffers of the city. But when we look around town, when we look at incidents like the David Joseph incident, the Larry Jackson Jr. incident, when we start to look at the health disparities, when we start to look at many of the things and we look at race, then we have to take a critical eye to our local government and those that are supposed to be serving the needs of all people. And so we have to be brutally honest in order to move forward. And as of yet, we're not being as honest as we could be and as honest as we should be. Therefore, no solutions are coming to the table like they should because we're not being honest. And so what we are receiving from candidates, what we're receiving for those that are serving are, in my opinion, merely Band-Aids to wounds that need surgical attention and need to be involuntarily closed by some outside apparatus.
Robert, do you think the candidates should be advising and proposing solutions to address some of the issues and problems that face the black community here in Austin?
Absolutely. That is, in fact, what we should be looking for in a candidate that's running for office. We should be looking, and you know what, Brother Michael, a lot of times I believe that people don't offer solutions because if they don't offer solutions, you and I have nothing to hold them accountable for. But if they offer solutions and we record that in our memory banks, we record that via audio, video, we record that on black and white, then we have something to hold them accountable to. But if they shuck and jive and tap dance, then we have nothing to hold them accountable for when they're in office.
Welcome.
Yes, there's someone who just showed. What's your name, sir?
Arthur Sampson.
Arthur Sampson.
Nice to meet you. Another candidate.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Sampson. I was just about to say we had invited all the candidates to appear who were candidates for the commission position in Precinct 1. I was about to say only one showed up, but now we got two.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming.
Mike, Robert made an awesome statement earlier about, Austin, our city, booming. But really, for quite some time, all eyes have been on Texas for quite some time. It's something so richly unique about our state, but we do have so many other issues. There's so many other things that ail our state as well. You talked about should each candidate deal with the black community. I'm almost to say, where's the black community? I mean, because there's been so much gentrification. Where are we?
They live in my neighborhood.
They're in your neighborhood, Richard.
my neighborhood.
Okay, so we got to go to Richard's neighborhood and find them. So that's what we're going to do, the spiritual, whatever you call,
right.
yeah. So with now we know where they are. But it's nice to have you, sir.
If I could just interject really quick to speak to the minister's points. At the mayor's state of the city, he talked about the gentrification issue, not directly because we all know what code speak can be sometimes, but I was there in the room and I heard him speak to the issue. And you know how folks can speak and it sounds like it's coming from the heart. The thing that really got me was that even though he spoke to the gentrification issue and that we need to help, I think he said the 200,000 plus folks that are in our community, that number that's dwindling, that's what he referred to as the black folks that are getting out of Austin or being pushed out of Austin. He spoke to, again, education, the typical ones, education, affordable housing. He spoke about a couple buildings that are in project to help with that cost, and making some of those areas, again, on the east side, landmarks so that we as a community don't lose those particular sites. I'm new to Austin. I'm from California, and I've heard of the gentrification issue, but I live in Pflugerville, and there are a lot of brothers and sisters that live in Pflugerville, Manor, Taylor, and I'm assuming these are the folks or their families before them are the folks that have either been pushed out or have relocated, sold whatever they had and relocated. My main concern was, and I think I brought this up at the HT forum for the candidates, I had asked them, how is it that we're going to stop gentrification when you have so many people flooding into this area with on-site education? They don't need to continue going to school. They can afford to buy the 500,000 plus price tag of these homes and stuff. How are you going to combat that and stop that merely with education?
Let me interject, because we have had conversations consistently for the last, I don't know how many times we've done this conversation about how are we going to do this. Rarely is there a conversation about equity. Rarely is there a conversation about investment, a direct investment in the people that you're talking about. So the reality is, we have invested hundreds of millions of dollars in bringing businesses here on the backs of the people who are being moved out. You're paying for your own demise. And then you are blamed for the fact that you don't have a proper education. Mm-hmm. The other day, we had a forum where a gentleman stood up. He was the Republican candidate for county commissioner, who said, I think it's amazing that I'm talking to you now that you've been in charge. Democrats have been in charge in Austin forever, and yet you're still talking about your plight. And instantly, another candidate jumped up and went to the default. Well, you guys didn't fund education. I'm sorry, he was correct. Democrats have been in charge of what's going on here for the longest, and we have been told who is right for us, who we need to vote for, who's going to do the best by us. But never is there a conversation about investing in the community without a program tied to someone who doesn't even look like me to help the people in this community. I put together a plan for $100 million to create something that where we had equity, create businesses, feed ourselves, actual almost self-sustaining in the process. I took it both to the Statesman and the Chronicle. They've all seen it. And no conversation about that has happened in the public eye where anybody could see it. So when you talk about us having control of our own future with investments from the community, the community that we live in, a direct investment from the city into that process, the powers that be have decided people who look like me shouldn't run their own process. I should come help you. The liberal democratic mindset, I'm putting liberal in quotations for real here, because the liberal mindset is I can help you as long as I'm in control of that help. And that's the problem. You won't let me tell me what's the best thing for me. You're going to bring me a solution, and I can't answer the problem myself. And that's the issue at the end of the day.
Richard, wow, that is just point blank it. You know why? For so many years, this has happened. It's happened to our parents, our foreparents, and we're still doing it. You know what? I'd like to see you take that vision and begin to really work it. You know what? Without the assistance, without the help.
Oh, I'm going to.
Because it's so needed. And I am sick and tired of being told, you know, who to vote for. You know, of course, we vote for who we want. But the fact still remains, there's something we've got to stand up and we've got to do. And no more can we allow this to happen. No more.
I would like to hear from Mr. Dawson on this issue, if there's something you want to
Mr. Sampson.
Mr. Sampson, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Well, I have a different outlook when it comes to gentrification. The fact is that when you have people coming in from other states like California and New York, where the homes up in those areas cost, you know, about $500,000, $600,000, then they come here and they can buy the same home they've had in those other states at a lot less than what you have here, where they can buy a home for $300,000, where if they're in their state they would buy it for $600,000. Well, once you go into a community and you buy that property and you build, we're not talking about one person, we're talking about several people. So once it starts in a chain reaction where people are coming in and buying the property in the areas in which we live, which is the eastern part of Travis County, that is going to send the value of the property up. That cannot be stopped unless you tell someone you cannot buy this property. Then you get in the point of discriminating. And we don't want that. We can't have that.
I think you misunderstood what I was saying, Arthur. But
okay, let me finish. So what happens is once you start that chain reaction, and we've had people have homes here for years, and they may have bought that home for $40,000, and of course over the years it's probably went up to $100,000. Well, what they do, they buy that property, they tear down that home, they build another home that's 3 times as much as what it is at that particular time. Then when the tax people come around and they start evaluating the property, and you got a $300,000 home sitting by your home that's $100,000, first of all, they look at the property, not the structure. They look at the property. They put a price on that property. Then they turn around and put a price on that structure. Then that's where we say gentrification is coming in, that when all they're doing is valuing the property as a whole versus the property that you have that's built right next to you. What we have to do as a community, and we have to have meetings to get the people to come in and sit down at the table and say, look, my property is this amount of money, but my structure is not as what it's worth. So you have to get someone to look at your structure. I've done it several times, and I've gotten my taxes down. But if you don't do that, and you leave what they say your property is worth, that's what you're going to have to pay. So I think as a whole, we have to be educated on who is coming into our neighborhood and what they're buying and what property is selling for. But you have to go in and fight for your property to make sure that your property is not being priced out when it's really not that much. They got a value on the lot, is on the land itself. That's going to stay. My property, my land value of my property went up for 1 year, from 1 year for 50,000 to 100,000. That's just on the land itself. But then you look at the structure of the property, and then you have to go there and challenge them about the structure of your property.
That's after the fact.
That's true.
And that's what's happening right now. That's happening all over the city of Austin, especially in the eastern part of Travis County. And as long as the people are coming in and buying this property, it's going to continue to be that way. I wish we could just lock our property in, property values in, or our tax in, the way it needs to be, for that won't happen. Now, they do have, where they have homestead exemptions. When you own a home, you can go down and file for your homestead exemption on your property, where they can allow you $25,000 on your home. That will reduce your taxes. Also, they're fighting to get an additional homestead exemption of $45,000 on your home. And then once you reach a certain age of 65,
And-
your school taxes are locked in.
And that's, and everything,
all that stuff helps.
everything you're
Well,
saying is important.
Well, are you essentially talking about addressing the issue at the appraisal district level?
Well, it's not only at the appraisal district level, it's the whole process in itself as a whole. Because they come out and they evaluate your property, what it's worth, based on the sales of the properties that's around your area. And that's why the property is going up. The value of your property is going up. And when the value of your property is going up, that's what they tax you on.
Did you want to
If the value of your property is down,
Well, I wanted to say that you know, the mass of the people need to be educated on these types of things. But
Yes, they do.
let me just give you a very clear example of the side effects of what we call gentrification. You know, I have a classmate of mine who his family has owned property since the 1800s in the corridor of 11th Street, right? Now, we understand that the black community is marginalized and has been destabilized. And we can talk about George H. Bush. We can talk about Iran-Contra and the rise of crack cocaine and being pushed into our communities, and Reagan letting them get off, and then George H. Bush continuing that process, and then Clifton, that some people call the first black president, began to pass these laws that 3 strikes and you're in. And in Texas, if you are convicted of a felony 3 times, you're a habitual criminal. So we starting with 25, and that helped to destabilize the community. Now he's beginning to apologize. The government had his hands in all of this. But I had a classmate that their property was left to him and an older brother. They both had felony convictions, maybe more than one, but the city came to them and said, we're going to buy your property. He said, my property is not for sale. And then they came back and they said, if you don't sell it for this amount, then we will come back under the legal system and take it under the eminent domain, right? So then not only did they do that, but see, they muscled him because they came back with his
records?
record.
Wow.
They came back with his brother's criminal record. And then he said, well, give me some time. Let me see what the property is worth. Of course, he had no idea that the Street Jones building was coming up. He had no idea that all of this stuff was being developed, but they knew it was being developed. You see what I'm saying? So when knowledge is hidden from you, you know, and so they ended up being able to muscle this young man and his family out. And of course, you know how they do us. They put the seal of the city on something. They call it a historical landmark. They give you a couple of dollars so you can relocate. But see, that's a part of the problem that needs to be addressed. Of course, with the transfer of knowledge, so we can know, because we own these communities. And we had to have some knowledge and some information to get to the point to where we could own property from 6th Street all the way east. But this would not happen west of 35 like it happens east of 35. Let's just be perfectly honest about that.
Robert, I wanted to hear from Richard Franklin on this.
I want to be more honest, because the reality is, with an investment where we can own businesses, where we can create entrepreneurs within our community, I don't care what the property value is if I have an opportunity to go out and make enough money to stay in my home, because to defer my taxes is still a temporary relief. Communities that have places, you closed up a school in this community. We know that when you close up a school, you kill a community.
Yes.
You allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
That was done on a Democratic watch. We need to get down to brass tacks here. The reality is, you killed a community and then turn around and start the gentrification process. Now you want to build a 150 tall building here and close off the corridor where you won't be able to even see into the east side. So the reality is, or out of the east side. So you develop the way you want to develop. What I'm saying is, the investment should have been a direct investment. You've had hundreds of millions of dollars flow into the city to help people, but you've set up your own nonprofits run by the city that get the money that never flows down to the people who need it. I've had people who had businesses who could not get a loan. They've asked them to put up their homes, their trucks, their cars, who had restaurants and other kind of businesses here in this town, and they will eventually run out of business. You redlined this area where we couldn't get business loans. So at some point in time, you got to realize this is a reality that needs to be addressed in a real fashion, not a bunch of rhetoric on the stage so I can feel your heart. I don't need to feel your heart anymore. I need to see your pocketbook. Bring the wallet out, bust out a check, write me some money, and then let me control my destiny, and you get out of the way and let me handle this. I got that after you do it.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was speaking to originally, where at the meeting, the answer for some reason, and I'm be honest, the answer for some reason when you talk to public officials and leaders and folks in that area, it's always education. Well, if the education system was better. Well, if you get properly educated and get your degree, you'll make enough money so that you can afford to live in a condo and everything like that. And, I always talk to Mike, and we always, go back and forth on this, and, it's always the same. Everybody's not going to be a computer tech, or everybody's not going to be a doctor. Everybody, we used to have industry and all this stuff where folks can make a living, and now, you've only got the big three. You're either going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a cop, or you're going to be a doctor. And in this town, fortunately for some, you can also make a great living off of IT work. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But again, if you want to get to the education, again, like you just said, they closed the school down. Well, I'm of the understanding that we have millions of dollars going into the educational system, so why was the school closed? Where did the money go? Where is the money in the schools in our communities?
And how you have a school and no students? Well, that is the issue that they had. That's what was on the news. Okay, they've got a school closed down, but where are the students at?
Where are they at?
Because they have a whole new mindset about how they're going to build or revamp that whole community. It's going to be like you said a while ago, buildings where you can't even see the city of Austin.
Can't even see into the east side.
Well, check this out. Okay, so everyone has had such an awesome point, and everybody has been so on point. Here's the thing I want to mention. We talk about outsiders coming in, buying up the community. There's something that the families that live in these communities need to do. Number one, you need to know and know what that homestead was that your foreparents built. It may have been small and little, but that doesn't give you necessarily the right when you see dollar signs that somebody's going to offer you to sell that home. You need to keep that home, that homestead, keep it there so that the big movers and shakers can't come in and take that property. Yeah. Don't give it to them. Really, that's what has happened. parents have died, grandkids and children and other generations have been raised in that house, but they don't have the mindset of a homestead, of what it takes. I mean, later on in life they will, when they get probably in their 50s or so, but it's all gone because you've already, it's like you sold your birthmark. You sold it.
Yeah.
And
Let me, can I say something, iterate on what she's saying? I mean, you're right about what you're saying, but you have to understand when people have property, they have to pay taxes on that property. You're leaving that out. And if you don't take the taxes on the property, it's going to be taken away from you. I had a homestead piece of property that my parents had, and a portion of my relatives lived in it, and they wasn't paying the taxes on it. So it got to the point that it got up to a great amount of money, like $36,000, because it wasn't paying the taxes on the home. Well, sooner or later, they finally had to sell that home. It is not the point that they wanted to sell it. It's the fact that it had all the taxes that was owed on it. They didn't have the income to pay the taxes on the home. So what do you do? When we talk about education, that's good. When you get educated and you have a good job, you can afford to pay the taxes. Supposedly, you can afford to pay the taxes if you have a good job. Sometimes that still doesn't work out that way.
That equation doesn't
Again, when I
always
talk
work.
about someone comes in and they build a home next to you that's worth $300,000 and your home is only worth $100,000, again, that changed the value of the property. And once that changed the value of the property, that means the tax value of your property is going to go up. So if someone wants to come in and buy it, they're going to have to pay a fair market value of that property along with everyone else. But it's the point of you having to pay those taxes, and you're leaving that out. So it doesn't make, to me, if you're educated and you can pay your taxes, and if you're not as well educated, those taxes still exist. Either if you're not at the point that you can make money or the point that you can make money, those taxes still stay the same and they still have to be paid. That's the part of the problem. So
That is true. That is
if
true.
the people had the money to pay the taxes, they wouldn't be selling the property. They would hold on to it. Y'all living a bigger portion of that out and taking that everything is just coming in and they're taking our property away from us. Now, of course, if someone comes in and put a high value on your property that no one else's have that high value on, then you have to challenge that like you challenge everything else. So we have to keep all those things in mind. Another thing is that as a group, as a family, sometimes we don't help each other out where we can keep the property in the family. So it's not a small issue, it's a big issue.
Complex issue, yeah.
It's a very complex issue. It's a bigger
complex
issue than
issue.
just that. So when you talk about that stuff, we need to put all the pieces to the puzzle together and see exactly what is happening, not only in the eastern part of Travis County. The same thing is happening in the western part of Travis County, but that's the high dollar property over in those areas, and people over there, they may be educated, they may not be educated, they might have trust funds. You don't know what's going on there, and we could have the same thing here. And when we over in East Austin, everybody moved to East Austin, and we thought that was the paradise where we can come in and have a nice home, and it wasn't very expensive. But now things are changing. Everything is coming to the east, and this is what's happening right now.
That is very true.
and
Robert?
the difficulty I have in everything he's saying is correct. But see, when you have individuals and you have corporations, because gentrification is not new.
Oh, no.
So the future of Austin, what Austin will look like 20 years from now, is being planned today.
Yeah.
So yes, when social scientists look at what's going on in a community, they can make a prediction based on what's happening in that community as to what the community is going to look like. So this idea that gentrification just happens because knowledge is not being passed, yes, that's correct. Knowledge is not being passed, but there are some individuals that take advantage of. Yes. And so when you pass bills and you fund nonprofit organizations to help sustain a community, and it has an educational component to it, those that are representing communities that are not making sure. See, because before we allow gentrification to happen, we've got to make sure that the gap is filled, right? We got to make sure that these individuals that are behind on taxes, maybe have family members, that we are doing our due diligence at educating these individuals and helping them to hold on. But you cannot tell me that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that the corporations and the investors that were coming in under the guise of the city, the local government, luring them to come to the city.
And paying them, don't leave that out.
And cutting their taxes and whatnot, that they understood what they were coming into and what they were about to take advantage of. Case in point, I can give you hundreds of stories where you have elderly people living in homes, lights not on or gas not on, and individuals that were buying low-level real estate moguls coming in and getting their gas turned on, paying their taxes, and getting them to sign their deeds over so that they could have that property. And then when the property value began to skyrocket, you got a man that has damn near a city block that he probably bought for less than 10 grand, right? So when you have vultures like that, see, because vultures only come when animals are dead and they begin to pick away from the remaining carcass of that animal. So you have people in business like that. But our community needs protection from that.
And that goes to the leadership.
And that goes directly to the leadership.
Right,
and
brother.
protection from ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because we don't always do the right thing. I mean, I love what you said, because you said, okay, so the planning that's already happened, it's really from years on out. I remember when we done the Riverside Corridor. Well, they planned the mass transit going down Riverside, all kinds of things happened, but not everybody in the community came out to the meetings. That's the protection we need from ourselves, because we don't get out there and we don't get involved and see what exactly you planning for my community. What's supposed to happen on my street? And what you gonna do with my children's school?
But the question is, how are the people supposed to know that this is happening? See, because when I go to these meetings and they say that the people don't come out, all of the people that are ill affected, they don't know anything about these meetings.
But they get flyers. The city has done an okay job of getting that word out.
They've done a horrible job.
You will never hire me to do community outreach. You'll never, because I will get the word out. You'll never hire me because you go back and say, well, he's a firebrand. But you know I will go out there and yell from the rooftops to make sure everybody gets to that meeting. You're not going to do that. You're going to send out a flyer because you know people are going to throw that flyer in the trash can. It is by design to make sure. And by the way, when you have the meeting, when is the meeting again? Oh, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. You're talking about working class people to take away their time with no transportation, because you have one of the poorest mass transit systems in the country in Austin. So they can't get there on mass transit. You know, they can't get away from work, and you have it during the middle of the day, and then turn around and blame the people for not showing up. You do it by design. I can make things happen by design, and that's the real issue. And I want to go back to the social justice issue at this point, because the reality is we're talking about these people being killed by police, at the hands of the police. I'm talking about people being killed by the environment that you moved people into. We were talking about the trash dump that burned for 2 months underground that people moved on top of over in the hog pen. The people in my community had a trash dump that burned for over 2 months in my neighborhood. These are the things that are being put in our neighborhood. A bullet to the brain is a lot faster than dying of cancer and a lot less painful. I got news for you. We are being killed in the worst kind of ways on a daily basis, and no one is even addressing those issues. I got people who are supposed to be my friends in the environmental movement that I'm not even going to talk to anymore after this race, because you don't care about what happens to me. I see your words, I don't see your deeds. And I'm talking about the deeds at this point. I don't care about the words anymore.
May I interject in this?
Sure.
You know, of course, you know that I'm running for county commission for precinct 1. One of the issues and one of the things that I'm going to do, as far as outreach is concerned, I'm gonna have quarterly town hall meetings to let the people know, go where they are, get them informed on what needs to be done in the community, and I want to hear back from them. Another thing, as far as reaching out to the community, I'm gonna have commercials or talking about these meetings and what needs to be done by getting on the radio, on the TV, whatever I can do. That's what's needed to inform the people what is going on in their community, and then want to hear back from them what would they would like to see being put in their community. But the first thing that we need to do, as far as people are concerned, once all of these notification goes out, we have to come to these meetings. And I think Richard said it best of all. When you're having a meeting at 2 o'clock in the daytime or 3 o'clock in the daytime, people can't take off from work and come to these meetings. And me as a county commissioner, it'll be the same thing for me. I have to work during the daytime to serve the people on the court. What I plan on doing is having those meetings in the afternoon, or maybe having them on a Saturday. And this is part, so when would you like to see have this meeting for? You can come and attend to and talk about what you want to see happen in your community and what you don't want in your community. But we have to work together as a team player. We have to be team. We have to work together as team. And last of all, what has been happening now in the past, we do not have the leadership that is needed to bring the people together. We could have, this could have been done a long time ago. The same thing I'm talking about right now.
Are you talking about Democratic leadership or Republican leadership?
I'm just saying leadership. Period.
Okay, because
leadership.
Again,
period.
the point has already been made
finish.
that for the
let me
longest
finish.
time,
Okay.
you're talking about liberal
Democratic
Democratic leadership.
This doesn't have anything to do with liberal,
Well,
Democrat.
well,
I'm talking about just leadership.
Well, I do.
People that
So-
we look up to in the African American community, and I'm not calling any names out.
Come on.
But
Then that would be liberal.
but
That would be
we have
liberal
not had the leadership. The
Democratic
same thing I
leadership.
just said by having
Respectable.
quarterly town hall meetings, getting on the radio saying we're going to have these meetings, getting on TV saying we're going to have these meetings, and then the people have to come out. But they have to come out at a time where people are not at work.
Very, very true.
They have to come out when people are not at work in the afternoon. We're not talking about at 10 o'clock at night, but make it reasonable, say from, 7 to 9 or 6 to 8 or something like that, and talk about these issues. And it cannot be an issue that we talk about once every 6 months. It has to be on a regular basis.
Very true.
Well, that is true.
And people have to come and join in. But as long as you stay back and you have the opportunity to come out at a reasonable hour to hear what's going on, put your input, and act. Whenever something happens at the city hall, whenever something happens at the commissioner's court, of course, those are during the daytime where people cannot get out, and that's why we have a very weak turnout.
Of course. Well, here's the thing. It is so very true of what you're saying. But my thing is that when there's not a leader, when there's not a good leadership, where's that heralder? Where's the messenger that's going to go out there? And I'm talking about really knocking door to door and talking to the people and saying, hey, we need to get together. I don't care if you go to so-and-so house and you bring 4 or 5 of them with you in that same house. You've got to get something started. And I don't believe that we need to wait until the election is here and over,
right. That's true.
because it's already done. And
Yeah.
then you've already voted for somebody that's not going to even do what needs to be done in the community.
Well, you just said,
I think we need to get
I
back
just
to
said, I just spoke about
community.
what we need to do. You don't have to wait till no election to do this. The biggest thing that we have going on for us right now are the churches. We got so many churches here in the city of Austin that we can get into the churches, we can make those announcements in the churches, and they can talk about the meetings that we're going to have and where the meetings are going to be held.
That is a great
Now,
idea.
here's what.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
a
great
great
idea.
outlet.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Well,
do that.
I thought we were going to talk
Go
about
ahead,
crime in Austin. We're talking about another crime altogether, it seems.
It's crime.
What?
It's crime.
It's crime.
It's
I,
things
It may be a greater crime than the ones we thought that we were supposed to be
for
talking
sure.
about.
For sure.
So we have an outlet already that we can use, but I think a leader can go to some of the churches, talk to the pastors there, let them know what we're trying to do. We can work together as a team. I have a lot of faith in that.
I
That's
hear
one of
you.
the things
And-
that I'm going to do and want to do.
I'll say
Yeah,
this,
brother.
in order for that to happen, the pastors need to be reborn again, because many of them are being courted by this corrupt leadership, and many of them have been part and parcel to helping to usher in the particular reality that we see right now in our communities. And so those messengers need to be reborn again. And if they're going to stand for our communities, then they need to stand up like they know they're supposed to stand up, and not stand for the greenbacks and the dollars and the greasing of the palms under the tables. They need to stand properly. And the reason, I'll say this, that the reason we look at Mr. Donald Trump and we cannot figure out why he's leading in the polls and why he has this staying power is because in 2016, no one wants to hear political correctness. Interest behind, but backing him, he's got his own money. He can say what's on his mind.
That's right.
And he can say what's on the minds of the people. The media will they follow him and they want to hear because they want him to mess up. And every time the public think he's messed up, he goes up in the polls because he's saying what's on the hearts and what's in the minds of the people. And it may sound crazy,
It's very crazy.
Preach it.
but I'll tell you this,
Preach
he's
it.
speaking to a certain segment of the population, whether you like it or not, and so he's like a frether. Policing, and in our community, it has been proven that more policing ends up in more deaths of our young folks. And you never see the young folks, even though their grandmother attends a church, their mother attends a church, and pay tithes and keep the economy of our population growing. And so this is the day we got to get rid of all of this and transform what is before us and be honest and be real. If we're going to be real about racism, we got to be real about what's happening in our community as well.
I really need to chime in on that one. I was told before I started to run that I needed to be calm. That I was going to
Are
scare.
you calm, brother?
I'm as calm as I've been in quite some time right now. Because I was told I was going to scare white folks.
Wow.
I'm
Okay,
trying
you're
to
not
tell you.
afraid,
Tell
are
the
you?
truth.
I'm serious.
Tell the truth.
I was told that if you say the things you're going to say, you're going to scare white folks, and I have had a media blackout because of it. Because when you start speaking truth, and I'm talking about a truth that cannot be hidden, a truth that makes people feel uncomfortable, the people who control the message getting out to people are uncomfortable, and they shut that down. And we have yet to have an opportunity. In fact, the forums we are just now getting to right now have not been televised. They have not been recorded, so people can hear what's being said, so they can hear the people who are actually speaking truth, who want to be power, or people who are tap dancing around truth. The people who are being projected onto this community, and I do mean projected, are the people that power feels comfortable with, because they know they are not going to make them feel uncomfortable when they start gentrifying and annihilating my community. And the reason I have said this is a matter of life and death for me, my family, and my community, and I speak to that issue right now. I have spoke to that issue on a constant basis. Is they say, well, you got to modulate your voice. Well, here's the reality. If I talk to you nice, can I tell you that I'm tired of you killing me? Does it change the outcome of the conversation? Do you feel better when I say I'm tired of you not investing properly in this community that you gentrified and redlined? Does that make you feel any better about what I'm talking about? When you talk about the fact that I've got the miseducation on east of 35 that's going on a continual basis, the fact that you forced me out into an area where I'm living in a food desert on the most deadly road in Travis County, living amongst trash, crematoriums, land mining. I have the highest rate of asthma in Central Texas. My children are suffering, and now you want to move more affordable housing in my neighborhood where I can't afford to put more kids in a school district that's 95% free and reduced lunch, and you don't understand it at all? If I talk to you nice and low, does it make it any more palatable to you? Because it's killing me. And I'm tired of me being the only person mad about this. This community should be as angry as it wants to be and go out here and speak to that issue. Everybody needs to be in the streets.
That's right.
Every time there's a forum that you can make somebody be there, you need to be there. Send somebody and scream and yell from the rooftops and stop letting them have this conversation where they talk amongst themselves about you. That's what has to happen.
And I'll say this to the point of advertising these particular forums and meetings and info sessions properly. If Beyonce Knowles was coming to the Frank Irwin Center,
They'd be there.
they would make certain that because of what kind of money was coming to this economy, I guarantee you that's probably not a child under the age of 12 or a person under the age of a person 12 and above that it does not know about South by Southwest. So you advertise and you get into the homes and you get into the minds of the individuals when it's convenient. And so that was my thing. And I know that because I find out about many of these meetings just by happenstance, just by word of mouth. Or somebody calling me saying, Brother Muhammad, are you going to this? Did you hear about that? And so I know, either you're trying to keep us from coming there, me from coming there, or you're doing a piss poor job, excuse my language, at trying to get the people it really affects. Nothing disturbs me more and to have a conversation about police brutality. And when you look at the statistical data of the age group of those that are suffering from police brutality and the things that come with this blue wall where racism is allowed to fester and grow and develop and all of the $1 million of good training is thrown out the window, and to not see the age groups of those that are affected by this in those meetings. You never see them in the meetings. Why? Because they never know about these meetings. So this idea that our people don't come to things, they don't come because those that have the resources to get them to come don't even attempt to get them to come so they can do their dirty deed without the mass of the people knowing about it.
Well, some of them don't come because they feel that, what difference will I make? Just the same reason why most of them don't vote. If you don't vote, you can't make a difference. But the fact still remains is that you can tell somebody, but it's not on their priority list. You can knock door to door. So many times I've done this and said, I need you to please come out.
You're not going to the same places we're going to. The members of the Nation of Islam, you are not going to the same places we're going to.
They may not have lived in 4-1, but when I was in 4-1, which is my hood, where I'm from, Montopolis, when I was involved in the neighborhood community, we knocked door on door. I'm like, this is such an important thing. You need to come out. You've got to come out.
What would it take for the city to get 10 charter buses to go to a specific neighborhood after work. If they were having a meeting, let the families know we're going to feed your family so you won't have to worry about providing dinner for them, but we want you to come to this forum. We want you to hear what's going on to your particular neighborhood. What would it take for the city to provide small resources for that rather than you and 4 other people going door to door, beating the block? This is what I'm saying. So the local leadership, that takes nothing for them to do that. And I'm not a genius, so that didn't just come out of the divine and I just thought of something like that, but it's designed for those people that are most affected.
Yeah.
Not to be present, because you know what? At the end of the day, I'm saying that I care, but I really don't want to hear
But guess
what
what?
you have to say.
That's right.
Guess what?
Right.
What would it take? We already know that the government, we can't count on the government to do it. What will it take
the
for
words out of
us
my mouth.
to get out there?
It would
To
take
get the
nothing.
buses
What,
together.
Richard, in your dying community, what would it take us to get out there in your community to get the people to come out and do what, to get involved? What if we made some sandwiches and brought some chips and I'm just saying.
I do that. I do that. I do get people out. So, I mean, the reality is we know what it takes to get people out. You got me messed up. I get people out to stuff. Means it comes down to a matter of will. And it comes out. I know that if I have a meeting as a county commissioner, what I said before is I'm gonna have a meeting every week, one day a week from 8 to 8 or 10 to 10. So I'm there all day. I serve you. That's what I'm gonna do. People will know where you are, and you're consistent about what you do. People need to be consistent about what we're doing out here, and suddenly that's how they do it. Just like you do church, you consistent about going to church.
Have your state rep come out?
Oh, don't get me started on state rep.
So I'm just saying.
Okay, can I interject in this here? I think as far as getting people out, and I've heard what everybody have had to say, and all those ideas are good. I think that we have to have a good outreach program in getting the people out, and I talked about the media, TV, flyers, whatever it takes, and I think that's what we need to do. But I have to say that I have faith, 100% faith, in our people, in all people, to come to the meetings. But the fact of it is, what has happened is that the leadership hasn't been where it needed to be, where the people trust the leaders in order for them to come out. As county commissioner, I plan on changing that. I plan on, being out there. Like I said, I keep talking about quarterly town hall meetings. We have to have meetings that are reasonable for people to come to. And we have to have the outreach to notify all the people. I have 100% faith in the people coming out. But I think the point of it is they need to be notified in a proper manner, given enough time, the hour of the time for them to come out, for we can sit down and have a good conversation on what they would like to see done in their community and what they don't like in their community. Work together as a team, go together down at the city council or the commissioner's court or down at the capitol as a team to fight what we need to fight for as far as what we want to have in our community.
Okay.
You can't get no more plainer than that.
You two, y'all are not running for the same seat, are you?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I was wondering, who is the incumbent in?
Ron Davis.
There's no incumbent.
He's not an
He's
incumbent.
She's
leaving.
leaving.
Oh.
He's vacating the seat. He's retired.
Well, it certainly sounds like it's time for a shift in the guard, for sure.
The reality is, I've already done those things as a school board member. I had a 33%. I also think it's kind of funny. In a school board election, normally you have less than 4% people turn out. Because they don't want to see the people who are actually getting the work done. So I shut you out until I need you. I shut him out till I need you. And then when I need you, I bring you in, but then I don't tell you, by the way, he did a great job. or showing up what he said he was. When I was the president of Black Austin Democrats, I had 70 people in that room, and we had people come from around the state.
Well, I
People
got to
getting
come
involved.
involved here pretty quick here. We got about 3 minutes left. And I did want to
been
thank
good.
y'all and this Friday night at Carver Museum.
That's right.
There it is on the screen now.
That's right.
Just go there and be there.
That's right.
That's one of the things we talked about. We can all be involved in. And no, you don't have to be black to go. I'm going to.
You about the state of Black Austin?
Come on down.
Bring it
Yeah,
on.
tell them. We'll all be down
Bring
there.
it on.
Yeah.
We did originally start this show just to be Precinct 1. But we got very little response from the Democrat candidates.
Uh-oh.
Being a good Republican, I didn't push it real hard. But all these things did happen. I know we did want to talk some about the shooting. And there's lots of stuff coming up.
There's all stuff tied to it.
We're planning other shows because y'all talked about the black preachers. We're talking. We're planning a show about that,
Really?
aren't we?
It'd be a
I
great
think.
show.
We are, Mike.
Great show, great show.
You gonna be.
And yeah, we know there's going to be a runoff in some Democrat
me, you
races.
know
We'll
me.
probably cover that one. I don't believe there'll be any runoffs in my party.
No, you only have one Pat McCoy.
Well, I want to
the
thank
Green
the
Party.
two
10-4.
candidates for coming in today.
And we also wanted to talk some about Robert Muhammad's honor from this weekend, but I think we put the computer up so we don't have the picture of it. If you can briefly tell us about that, sir?
Well, we had our Nation of Islam National Convention to celebrate the birth of our founder, Master Father Muhammad. And during this particular Savior's Day, I was one of 100 people that was honored for helping to spread the message of 10-10-15 and other aspects of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by way of social media, to the degree that during 10-10-15 this past year, the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, that message and those messages reached over 1 billion people based on the tweets, the retweets, the Facebook, the Instagram, and I was one of the honorees to be honored by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan this year. And so I was, of course, am humbled and honored for the work, but that just means that the work must continue and it must increase.
Well, we got a minute
Thank
left,
you,
and
man.
we will have
Congrats, man.
pictures of that up. You can Robert Muhammad Facebook.
And I got one more thing to say.
Quickly, you got 30 seconds.
Justice for David Joseph.
Yeah,
Justice for David
that's
Joseph.
Part of why we didn't go on with Precinct 1, I didn't push it too hard. With that shooting, I figured that'd be something to talk about. And
We got a couple days left. We heard from the chief. We heard the words of the mayor. So we're patiently waiting.
well, in the last
Patiently
30
waiting.
seconds, I will tell you that the chief has said he'll be on the show on April 11th.
Go to the Austin Justice Coalition if you would like to help the Joseph family, please. Austin Justice Coalition.
10-4. Anyway, with the last 20 seconds, the candidates want to say bye-bye.
Yeah.
Get out there and vote. Yeah, you ain't got time to
Go
say
to my
bye-bye.
website
15
at Richard
seconds.
Franklin 4, the number 4, precinct, PCT1.info.
Go.
Arthur Sampson. My
That's it.
website is www.arthursampson.com.
That's it. Bye-bye.
Okay.
We go off at 15:30.